AMT. Welcome to Brian Lehrer Live, where web video meets the issues. This week, just days before the election, a special edition of our program on the issue of making college affordable. This was recorded with a live audience at Hofstra University on Long Island last week on the day of the presidential debate there. This was issue 18 in my WNYC radio series, 30 Issues in 30 Days. We are at Hofstra because this is the scene of the final presidential debate tonight right here on Long Island. And I am in the audience right now, an audience mostly of Hofstra students and faculty. And as you may have heard, also some students and faculty from various high schools in the region. And we have some guests from a university in Togo who are also visiting. Everybody here is sitting at a collection of round tables. Coffee is being served, but I think by now everybody wishes that either breakfast or lunch or some version of brunch, Eggs Benedict, anyone, was being served here, but it's not. Who here knows how much tuition is at Hofstra this year? Who can give me the exact number of Hofstra tuition? Yes?
I believe it's approximately $27,000.
$27,000. Does that sound like what all you Hofstra students are paying? No, there's a range. Do they charge different things? Where's my friend, Professor Dino Cinto? Oh, you're right there. Do they charge different for different tracks? Do you know?
No, but there are scholarships and need blind aid, and it's well worth it here at Hofstra. It's one of the top 10% of the colleges and universities in America.
Okay. Yes, you were going to say?
Yeah, I have the breakdown right here. It is, for a full-time undergrad, it's $23,800. For a part-time, this really isn't that interesting, but it's around $24,000.
That's right. It's eye-popping to a lot of our listeners. Man with laptop comes through right away.
Absolutely.
On Hofstra.edu?
Of course.
Of course. Who here is taking student loans to go to school? Okay. Are you willing to tell me how much you have borrowed? No, you don't want to do it. Okay, who's willing to say how much you're getting in Hawk to go to school here? Yes.
I'm a law student here, and I'm borrowing for this year $64,000.
For this year, $64,000?
For this year alone, for tuition, room and board, and personal expenses.
Is it worth it?
I sure hope the law school's worth it, but I think so.
Do you know your interest rate on your loan?
For the Stafford loans, it's 6.8%, and for government subsidized loans, it's a little bit lower, but I'm hoping that the presidential candidates will address whether they're going to keep the interest rates fixed for the next several years and whether or not we'll have a better repayment plan, especially I know that in 3 years I'm going to be well over $150,000.
Do you think that's going to affect what kind of law you practice, like corporate law as opposed to public interest law or something like that?
Actually, I'm a strong advocate of the public interest sector, and I'm hoping to become a public defender. But at this rate, I'm wondering if people like me are going to be deterred from having those jobs or going into those sectors when we're coming out with 6-digit debt numbers.
Who else is willing to talk about your student loan situation? Yeah, hey, who are you?
I'm Nick Carrara. I'm a freshman here at Hofstra. I won't say exactly how much my loan is, but what I will say is when I was filling out my papers online, there was something that it let me know how much I was going to have to make when I got out of college in order to pay my loans back in 10 years. And after my 6-month grace period, I will have to make about $94,000 in order to pay my loans back in 10 years.
How did that make you feel when you saw that?
I was in disbelief. Like, that's not even realistic unless I become the next Tom Cruise out of college. If all these cameras here, if I look good enough, I might be able to afford that.
Okay, get a good shot of this guy, and we'll do a screen test after the show. Did that piece of information affect what you're going to major in since you're just a freshman?
Yeah, actually, yeah. Originally, I wanted to go into something in law enforcement, but having a family member in that field, I feel that I won't be able to pay back those loans in that field.
Unless you're the host of America's Most Wanted.
Exactly.
So what might you do instead?
I was looking into the field of business initially, but at this point, I have no idea.
And with no business left, you're giving up on that one too. Okay. Who else has a student loan? You? No? Yes? Hi.
I do. I won't say the exact amount, but I'll say that I was privileged enough that Hofstra gave me a scholarship. And someone else had said that Hofstra does hand out scholarships, but I've heard they're few and far between, and I feel bad for many of my friends who are taking out loans.
Yeah. So how did you get a scholarship? Was it needs-based?
I believe so. Luckily enough, my parents took care of most of it, so.
Right. Okay, thank you. Anybody else getting financial aid here at Hofstra? Is that a tough process?
It's not really a tough process. You fill out your FAFSA and they tell you what you can get for loans. I know that I declined any unsubsidized loans because of the interest rates. My father's an accountant. You know, he definitely gives me that advice. I don't have a lot out in student loans at this time because I also had a scholarship, and I've been trying to finance my college career on a now basis and pay for it as much.
Does that mean you're working a lot?
I did work this summer. I'm trying to take it easy now and focus on school. It's hard to work and do school at the same time. I've done that. I'm graduating in December, so I'll have to take care of my loans upon that time.
By the way, anybody here with a laptop, you can post, and anonymously if you want, what your student loan situation is and what you think this might mean for your life after college on the comments page that we have at WNYC.org. Click on Brian Lehrer Show. And anybody else who's listening out in Radioland who is a college student or maybe has graduated within the last few years, who has got student debt that you're still paying off. God, if it's $64,000 a year, maybe you're 45 and you're still paying off your student loans. Post your situation, and we'll read some of those on the air as we go here. Brian Lehrer Show is what you click on after you go to WNYC.org. Now, the same guy with the laptop who looked up Hofstra.edu for the tuition just got a text from his mom. Is that right?
That's correct.
You are Mr. High Tech.
Yes, absolutely. My mom just sent me a text message saying, what about room and board, etc.? It's about $44,000 per year.
Just for room and board?
Well, no, not for room and board, for the whole package.
With the whole thing. So, oh, I see. Added to what you said, the 20-something that the tuition was. Any other stories? Who else? Yes. Who are you?
My name is Catherine Lund. I'm from Stony Brook University. Actually, my parents are putting me and my brother both through school right now, and they take out loans, and I take out student loans. My parents were actually denied the Parents Plus loan this year, so like they don't.
What loan is that?
The Parents Plus loan. It's to help parents putting their kids through college, but because of what's going on, they were denied. And my mom's having a little trouble paying for school this year because of everything that's going on. So. And
are you a New Yorker paying in-state tuition at a state university at Stony Brook?
Yeah.
How much is that tuition?
I think it's like 13 or 14,000 for Stony Brook. But I mean, both my brother and I are both seniors in college, and she's got to pay for both of us. So.
Are you getting nervous about even being able to stay in school?
Well, thankfully it's my 4th year, so maybe I'll have like one extra semester, but paying them back is going to be a little tough. I mean, I'm a journalism major, so I don't really know.
It's journalism major, so you're not going to go into corporate law like our friend over there to pay back the bills. Good luck in journalism. Not the notoriously highest paying profession, but the most worthwhile profession that you can possibly go into. Is anybody else being directly affected by the credit crunch? Yes, down here. I'm going to walk over here to you and ask how you're being directly affected by the credit crunch. Hi, who are you?
Hi, my name is Angela Cuffey, and my parents were also denied for the Parent Plus loan. The HESC actually called and said that the bank that we were using just pulled out of student loans, period, and we were just like, okay. So we had to find alternatives. They were denied. I had a credit-worthy co-signer from before, and then I tried to apply it, and they said that this time it's not, that they couldn't do it because their credit scores that they're needing are higher. So I've been feeling it over the last couple of weeks.
So what are you going to do?
Gonna have to find another co-signer. That's the only thing. That I have all the federal loans already. I'm pretty much maxed out, so just have to keep trying.
How much are you maxed out at?
I'm about 115,000.
Whoa, what's your major?
I'm an entrepreneurship major. I was actually a dance major, and then I had a revelation and realized that really wasn't going to pay the bills. So I switched, and I'm glad I did it. So Frank G. Zarba School is a great business school. I'm hoping it will cover the bills. But
you know what they say, engineering majors ask how, philosophy majors ask why, fine arts majors ask, would you like fries with that? Oh. And obviously, except that guy who thinks he's the next Ryan Seacrest. Yes, hi.
Hi, my name is Mike Lefebvre. I'm a graduate student here. This isn't just a Hofstra problem, this is a national problem. We've been doing some research. The rate of college tuition has increased at twice the rate of inflation from '89 to 2005. Given the number of students who are going to college, going up, the pressure to get in, the cost all over the country, national debt increasing. I mean, there's so many concerns to college students. It's not just here, it's all over the country.
Absolutely, and certainly there's no intention to single out Hofstra here. College tuition is rising all over the country. We happen to be at Hofstra here, so we're using this population in the room as an example. Absolutely, this is not just a Hofstra thing, and we'll be broadening the conversation as we go through the hour, so I'm glad you made that point.
Yeah, and the point is just to segue to the idea of education to empower people, but debt is really a prison for people. So it's kind of disappointing for me to hear all my peers who have aspirations and dreams and passions and now are just binded by debt. It's really disappointing, and I hope that President Obama or President McCain will address that as a real issue in the next 4 to 12 years, saying that college affordability, Stafford loans, federal loans, we really need to help students get into college and not graduate into debt.
Thank you. And in a minute, we're going to start breaking down the Obama and McCain positions on making college affordable. We'll talk to the provost here at Hofstra. We'll talk to Anya Kamenetz from Fast Company magazine, who wrote a book called Generation Debt, and we'll talk to an expert on higher education and affordable college policy. So stay with us. Brian Lehrer live from Hofstra, the scene of tonight's presidential debate, here on WNYC.
Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge, host of Eldridge & Company. I've been in politics for years, but it's been a long time since I've felt so much excitement and interest as I do in this historic presidential election. So please watch our ongoing series of programs dealing with major election issues this fall on CUNY TV, Channel 75.
Hi, I'm Matthew Goldstein, the Chancellor of the City University of New York. Look who's teaching at CUNY. Michio Kaku, string field theorist and international authority on theoretical physics. John Corleano, Academy Award and Pulitzer Prize winner in music. David Nassau, winner, Bancroft Prize for Best Biography. Jill Barganetti, Presidential Early Career Award for Scientists and Engineers. Gregory Rabassa, recipient the National Medal of Arts in 2006 from President Bush. Elizabeth Nunez, winner, American Book Award. Godfrey Gumbs, American Physical Society Fellow and member, New York Academy of Sciences. World-class talent, award-winning scholars, CUNY is their classroom, CUNY is your university. "30 issues in 30 days, issue 18, making college affordable.
Brian Lehrer on WNYC, live from Hofstra University, Dempster Hall. Hofstra is the scene of the final presidential debate tonight, and here is Barack Obama at a speech in North Carolina on June 9th, sounding like some of the students we just heard from.
I know how expensive this is from firsthand experience. At the beginning of our marriage, Michelle and I were spending so much on our income just to pay off our student loans. We lost track of how much it was costing us. And that was decades ago. The cost of a college education has exploded since then, pricing hundreds of thousands of young Americans out of their dream every single year, or forcing them to begin their careers with unconscionable debt. So I'll offer this promise to every student as president. Your country will offer you a $4,000 a year tuition credit if you offer your country community or national service when you graduate. If you invest in America, America will invest in you.
Senator Obama in North Carolina in June. We'll hear a clip of John McCain later, one of John McCain's chief economics advisor also. Joining us now to help compare the McCain and Obama plans for making college affordable, Anya Kamenetz, author of the book Generation Debt and the Generation Debt column on Yahoo Finance. She's also a staff writer for Fast Company. Herman Berliner, provost and vice president for academic affairs here at Hofstra. And Michael Dannenberg, editor of the Higher Ed Watch blog at the New America Foundation. Thank you all very much for joining us. Herman Berliner, provost here at Hofstra. Did they get the tuition right out there in the audience?
They got the tuition right, and it's still a terrific value.
What was it last year?
We've been going up about 6 or 7% a year, but you really have to put that in context. If you have many classes that have only 15 or 20 students in the class, if you provide students with a lot of additional services, very different than when I went to college in terms of counseling and advisement and a host of other co-curricular activities, a recreation center that really is as fancy as any athletic club. If students are looking for all those extras in terms of their education and they're looking for a very personal education and a very small student-faculty ratio, the costs are going to go up.
And it's not just Hofstra, as we said before the break. This is a national phenomenon of college tuition rising faster than the rate of inflation. Why is it here?
It's expected by students. The students who apply here are looking not only at the majors we offer, but they're looking at everything else we offer in terms of a fully textured experience. They're looking at the recreation center, they're looking at the residence halls, how nice are the rooms, how good are the accommodations, how much extra support is provided. They're looking at the whole experience. The parents are looking at the whole experience. The expectations have gone up tremendously. We do everything we can to meet those expectations.
You heard the problems that some students are having getting their loans for this school year because of the new credit crunch. Are you offering new kinds of advice to students to help them, to help their parents cope with the changing situation?
We offer tremendous advice through our financial aid office. We're also providing some economic hardship loans that are trying to make it a little bit easier for students to afford college. But I don't want to minimize the cost. The cost is there. As an economist, it's still a terrific investment because if you look at the alternatives for someone who's graduating high school, they will be primarily at dead-end jobs unless they pursue a college education. So it's still a very smart investment, even with the costs involved.
How do you get those new hardship loans?
You demonstrate hardship. You demonstrate economic need. It's limited, but it's the university trying to do more in reaction to a very difficult economic situation.
I'm just curious, do you know, if you know, how poor do you have to be for those economic hardship loans?
I can't tell you the specifics. I'm sorry.
This is a song we found on YouTube from a guy named Matthew Kressling about his mounting student loan debt. Let's take a listen to a bit, and then we will talk about it. You'll hear that it starts with samples of actual phone calls from debt collectors.
This message is for Matthew Kressling. By continuing to listen, you are acknowledging that you are Matthew Kressling. Matthew Kressling. Collect a debt. Collect a federal debt, which we understand you owe. Calling with an attorney's office. This is a debt collector. No, Kelly's office voluntarily. From a debt collector. That's like the school bureau file here. We're doing it. A debt collector. Matthew Kressling. Return my call. I think we need to talk. You do not listen. You are not this person. Matthew Kressling. 5, 4, 3, 2,
evolution of my college years, arriving in an envelope, business signs, Sally Mae, corporation money.
Collecting federal debt, which we understand you owe.
This is to inform you that you haven't made a payment on your loan since the winter of italicized 1997.
Collecting federal debt, which we understand you owe.
If at this time you cannot make the monthly payment we sent, you'll be required to remit to us the balance in full. You know I don't think I'll pay. What kind of fool would feed the beast that swallows its young? Would feed the beast that swallows its young?
Matthew Kressling. We've posted a link to that video on our website. Now, the refrain of that song is, "Why would I feed the beast that swallows its young?" And at the end of the video, there's a title card that says, "Consider defaulting on your student loans." Anya Kamenetz, author of Generation Debt. It's an interesting question. This guy, Matthew, has opted to pretty much drop out of the whole system, or so he says in his song. Can you do that? Can you just not pay your student loans?
I don't recommend it. I've talked with people that have gone off the reservation in reference to their student loans. You can't get a mortgage, you can't get a credit card, you have to put your assets in someone else's name. I mean, the deal is it really is federal debt, it's federally guaranteed debt, and so they have incredible powers to get that money back.
This whole financial crisis is playing into just what you've been writing about for years now. Generation Debt can't even go into debt because they can't get credit. How does this look to you?
Well, it's very, very scary to hear the stories of people out there. You know, they really have only gotten more intensified. And, you know, the whole idea that college is supposed to be such a great investment is running smack dab into the reality that the return on college is not increasing. As a matter of fact, the average salary of college-educated people has been dropping since 2001. And so when people have been borrowing to finance a lifestyle that includes the credit cards, that includes the student loans, and the home equity loans on a lot of folks' parents' parts, when that borrowing finance consumption is grinding to a halt and the means to actually finance what you need to do are not there, you know, I think we're kind of running into a brick wall in terms of, you know, allowing people to get the American dream.
For the law student who spoke before, taking $64,000 of loans this year, Anya, I see that in one of your Generation Debt postings last month, you wrote that lawyers have some of the worst student loan debt. According to the American Bar Association Journal, 77% of mid-level associates excuse me, have student loan balances. 16% owe more than $100,000. 44% said they owed $50,000 to $99,000, and et cetera.
Well, it's been reported over the years that lawyers have a very high default rate actually on their loans, maybe because they understand the consequences of how to do that.
Or they know how to fight the system, right?
Exactly.
Do you think there's consequences of that for, you know, the lawyers that we have in this country and who they are and what they do?
I think on a society-wide basis, you can see the effects of student loans, the adverse effects on people's choices. Because, you know, in the law school situation, you have people that aren't going into public interest. In medical school, you have people moving away from general specialties and into things like dermatology where they have higher salaries. And you have a lot of people that are deterred from becoming social workers, deterred from becoming public school teachers because the loan debt is just too high.
60% of students, according to the stats that I have, leave college with some debt, and typical undergrads leave with some $20,000 worth of debt. And at private universities, it can be much more, as we're hearing. Now, Michael Dannenberg, we heard the clip of Senator Obama talking about what he calls his New American Opportunity Tax Credit, which would give every student a $4,000 fully refundable tax credit. That's not a tax deduction. That's a full tax credit, $4,000 right off your taxes each year in exchange for 100 hours of community service. He says this would cover 2/3 of the cost of the average public college. With tuition on the rise, how effective do you think this is?
I think it will be quite effective. One of the things to keep in mind, first of all, is that Hofstra University is a very special school and somewhat rare in the scheme of the higher education landscape. About 75% of all students nationwide go to public colleges and university, whose costs are much, much less than a Hofstra University. The typical public college, four-year public college or university has a tuition and fee level of about $6,000. So a $4,000 tax credit could go a long way. That being said, I think it's important to understand that Senator Obama addresses the college affordability issue through the frame of specifically increasing financial aid, as opposed to anything that's really going to get at the college cost increase issue. There are two sides of the affordability ledger, how much it costs and how much aid you're getting. He looks to increase how much aid you're getting.
Audience, who likes that idea? $4,000 fully refundable tax credit each year in exchange for 100 hours of community service. Who would do that? Who thinks that if this became law, you would do that? We have about a third of the hands up right now. Okay, let's talk to somebody who would do that. Hi.
Hi, my name is Elena Girardi, and I'm a freshman here at Hofstra. And I think that's a wonderful incentive. It's benefiting you and it's benefiting the country. 100 hours of community service could do great things for our country on the whole, and then the $4,000, especially for a public institution, can be such a great help to students, and I think that it works on both ends of the spectrum.
Now, 100 hours of community service, not really that much when you think about it. It's really very little. It's, you know, if a work week is 40 hours, it's 2.5 weeks. That's all it is to earn that $4,000. Somebody else over here has a reaction to that. Hi.
Hi, I'm Donna Chayback from East Meadow. I'm a junior here at Hofstra, and I'm an education major. I have already completed about 110 hours of community service at Safety Town in Eisenhower Park.
So you hope this is retroactive?
I think it would be great. I would absolutely go back to Safety Town and complete all of my hours. I can complete 300 hours there, and it wouldn't be anything to me because I love this country, and I would absolutely do as much as I could to help our community, and especially getting $4,000 of education. That would be excellent.
Who are you voting for?
I would be voting for Obama because I think that he has much more progressive ideas and would help the economy in a great way for everybody. The students, I'm especially concerned about teachers' salaries, and if I become a preschool teacher, the salary, mean salary, was $25,000 a year, and compared to my debt would be almost nothing in my salary. So I am very concerned about how I'm going to be able to pay my tuition come 5 years if I become a preschool teacher.
Thank you very much. Michael Dannenberg, how would this work? I mean, students don't even make enough money to pay $4,000 in taxes for the most part. So would their parents get that $4,000 tax credit, or are there a lot of people who just wouldn't qualify for it because they don't make enough money? What does that mean to actual students earning student wages?
That's a good question. The way the tax credits work right now, and they basically came into existence in the late 90s under President Clinton, is it's a tax credit for your parent. You may know of the Hope Scholarship tax credit or the Lifetime Learning tax credit. Senator Obama's tax credit is essentially a replacement and expansion for those tax credits. Now, the way it will help a family with very low earnings is, as you mentioned, Senator Obama would make the credit refundable. So even if you had no taxable income, you would get a check from the federal government.
Oh, you would?
We call that a refundable tax credit. It's really the same thing as a grant, but it operates through the tax code.
So for 100 hours of community service, it is $4,000 right off the top of your tuition.
Yes, but assuming it's going to operate in the same way as the Hope Scholarship and the Lifetime Learning Credit do, it'll cap out. Right now at a family income of about $110,000 only, you are no longer eligible for the Hope Scholarship or Lifetime Learning Tax Credit.
What else is in Obama's affordable college plan?
I think there are two other key elements. The first is Pell Grant growth. The Pell Grant is the largest form of federal student financial aid today, although tax credits are catching up quickly. Obama would increase the Pell Grant in keeping with the average rate and growth in tuition. Each year, he would increase the maximum Pell Grant. There are about 6 million students now who get a Pell Grant. The average grant is $3,000. The maximum is $5,000. He would hike that to keep pace with college tuition. The second, or the third, I guess, after the tax credit and Pell Grant boost, major higher education policy Senator Obama would have, is aid to community colleges to identify high growth employment areas, and to invest in community colleges who are training students to go into those high growth employment areas, alternative energy in particular. and also reward community colleges that graduate a substantial percentage of students who go on to a 4-year degree. Only 1 in 10 community college students goes on to graduate with a 4-year college degree.
Now, we met John McCain's chief economics advisor, Douglas Holtz-Aiken, when we did our show from the Aspen Ideas Festival this summer, and I asked him about Obama's charge that the McCain campaign basically has no plan for helping to make college affordable. Here was his response.
We have a proposal to consolidate some of the myriad tax credits that are out there so that people can more easily pull together the funds to go to college. I think the primary thing is to recognize that we have to get the control of the cost of college. That's the real issue. We could raise the Pell grants. There's an argument to be made for that. You can raise the kinds of loans people can get. But the real problem is the underlying price keeps rising far too fast.
All right, so that's a little bit of what he said as of this summer. Does John McCain have a well-developed college affordability program?
No. In fact, because there was a lot of criticism in the summer and spring about the lack of a higher education program, Senator McCain put out a press release that had 4 bullets, and that is his higher education program. His 4 bullets are things like consolidate programs, nothing specific, better information for families in applying for the FAFSA, fix student loans, but with no plan as how to fix them. And the most significant thing he's proposed is to improve the quality of research that goes on in institutions of higher education by eliminating earmarks, which pervert a merit-based system of research. But he has no proposal to limit the growth in college costs whatsoever. Like I said, Senator Obama deals with the college affordability issue through the frame of increasing financial aid. And not dealing with really tamping down college tuition increases. Senator McCain doesn't deal with either element. He doesn't propose anything to reduce the increases in college tuition, and he doesn't really propose any increase in financial aid.
What about what we just heard from Douglas Holtz-Aiken?
Well, I mean, he's not incorrect that you need to deal with both sides of the equation, tuition growth as well as financial aid, but he hasn't proposed anything to deal with tuition growth. And the research says that tuition doesn't really grow because of increased federal aid in terms of Pell Grant aid. There is some relationship with widespread availability of student loans, and there's a very big relationship with state appropriations for higher education. I mentioned earlier that 3/4 of all students nationwide go to public colleges and universities. The number one indicator of whether or not tuition is going to go up at those schools are state appropriations. And we're about to get into a very bad situation because as the economy turns down, the states are going to get less revenue from their taxes. In turn, they are going to cut higher education funding. And the colleges are going to make up for those cuts by jacking tuition. And the reason the state budget people do this is because they know that students can go out there and borrow more in order to pay for tuition. So we're seeing big increases in tuition, big increases in debt, and it's going to get worse.
It's not a pretty picture. Provost Berliner, I saw you nodding your head. Would that affect even Hofstra, which is a private university?
I think it will have an effect on all of higher ed. But if I can go back for a second, I think Senator Obama's positions are much better defined. But all of it has to be looked at in terms of the reality of the economic situation we're in. We are in a real crisis, and I think the bottom line will be we're not going to be able to deal with energy independence, we're not going to be able to deal with health care, we're not going to be able to deal with education all at the same time. And any new administration will have to decide on its priorities. And what I fear in terms of aid to education and higher education in general is as well defined as Senator Obama's plan is. At the end of the day, if energy independence is the first priority, and health care with 42 million people who are uninsured also a very major priority, will there be resources left in terms of supporting higher education? I think it's a very important priority. But with the national debt we have, with all the economic problems we have, with the bailout we have, with the issues we have, what will be left for higher ed?
Anya, have you looked into the comparison between the two?
The comparison between
Obama and McCain?
Oh, sure, absolutely. I mean, the most important point to me that we haven't yet mentioned is about the student lenders in the program. And, you know, Obama has spoken on a number of occasions. Hillary Clinton earlier in the primary session had come out with a proposal which Obama matched to take the middlemen, to take the bankers and the lenders out of the student loan program and revert to the direct loan program, which is much cheaper for taxpayers, which makes it a great proposal in this era of economic crunch. There's low-hanging fruit. We can remove corporate subsidies from the student lending program and free up that money for students.
We'll continue in a minute from live here at Hofstra. Brian Lehrer on WNYC from the scene of tonight's final Obama-McCain debate, and this is issue 18 in our 30 Issues in 30 Days presidential election series, Making College Affordable. We'll continue to take more comments and questions from the audience. I see someone else has posted on our website from right here in the hall on a laptop. We'll read that question. We'll continue with our three panelists, and we will add Long Island Congresswoman Carolyn McCarthy, who has just joined us in the room. Stay with us.
I'm Doug Musio, host of City Talk. I love to talk politics and policy. Join my guests and me as we discuss local, national, and international issues during this critical 2008 presidential election. This fall on CUNY TV, Channel 75.
先生你好，歡迎光臨，等等先。唔該晒。Brandon。
Ma, guess what? I went back to college. No, I didn't quit my job. I'm finishing my degree with a CUNY Online Bachelor's in Business. I interact online with real City University of New York faculty on a schedule that fits my busy life. Ma, you should look who's teaching at CUNY. And it all leads to a high-quality Bachelor of Science degree in business. I can attend class anywhere, anytime. Yes, Mom, even at your house Friday night for dinner.
The CUNY Online Baccalaureate. Get back to business.
We're going to help workers who've lost a job that won't come back find a new one that won't go away. We will prepare them for the jobs of today. We will use our community colleges to help train people for new opportunities in their communities. For workers in industries that have been hard hit, we'll help make up part of the difference in wages between their old job and a temporary lower paid one while they receive retraining that will help them find secure new employment at a decent wage. Education is the civil rights issue of this century.
John McCain from his Republican convention speech with a shout out to community colleges. How many times do you hear community colleges ever mentioned at a political party convention speech? So we've heard Obama and McCain. Also, our 30 Issues Healthcare Wiki is up for this Friday's program on the Obama and McCain healthcare proposals. Our 30 Issues Wiki, like Wikipedia, is not just a comments page. It's a way for you to collaborate with each other to help produce some of our 30 Issues election programs. So suggest guests and questions and audio clips, for example. Check out the 30 Issues Wiki at wnyc.org/30issues. And by the way, we've been posting photos of our event here at Hofstra today, so listeners, you can see those at wnyc.org. Click on Brian Lehrer Show as we broadcast here for this morning, live from the scene of tonight's final presidential debate. And on this 30 Issues in 30 Days, issue 18 segment, Affordable College Education, we have Michael Dannenberg from the New America Foundation, who writes their Higher Ed Watch blog. We have Anya Kamenetz from the book Generation Debt and the Generation Debt column on Yahoo Finance. She also writes for Fast Company. We have Provost here at Hofstra, Herman Berliner, and now also joining us is Long Island Congresswoman, Democrat Carolyn McCarthy. Congresswoman, thanks so much for coming in here.
Thanks for having me.
You've heard these college students and others talk about debt. You've heard some of the promises from the two candidates. You've heard some of Michael's dire predictions for what's going to happen in terms of government funding. What can the federal government do?
I actually think the federal government can do a lot more. You know, obviously we're facing some very, very tough economical times right now, but during the summer, at the end of August, we actually had a forum in the city, and one of the things, I'm a chairwoman on the subcommittee on healthy families and communities, and one of the issues that we have been working on is volunteerism. But one of the things we're definitely looking at, especially for our students that hopefully are going to go on to a higher education, you're going to need more than a community college education. You're going to need a college 4-year, if not higher education. But one of the things that we are looking at is to see a national service program. And how it would work is, we know that a lot of young people, and I have to say I was very happy to see, you know, students raise their hands when they were willing to work in the community. But one of the things that we do down in Washington with our staff, because we can't compete with K Street on the amount of money that it's worked there, but what we did, and it's been very successful, is anyone that works with us and has student loans, each year we forgive a proportion of that student loan.
Now let me jump in for just a second. Congresswoman McCarthy said K Street. Who knows what K Street means? About 10%. Okay, down here, what's K Street? Yep, it's okay. You don't need a microphone. Shout it out.
K Street is basically in Washington, D.C.
K Street is in D.C., where all the lobbyists gather. K Street is Washington speak for special interest lobbyists.
And they have a lot of money. So we educate and we train those that are working on our staff who are young, you know, fairly young, brilliant students in my opinion, but they swipe them. Once they have knowledge, they take them off, and you know, we can pay someone maybe $45,000, $55,000 depending on how much time they spend with us. K Street, you can go there and probably make $125,000, $130,000 and up, depending on what area you're in. But going back to what we're visualizing for the future for our students is that if you serve 5 years in an underserved area, what your field is, and that could be right here on Long Island, if you really think about it. We have a lot of underserved areas here, and have total student forgiveness. And I think that is something where you're serving your country, you're serving your community, but your educational expenses will be forgiven. And I know Hofstra is going to be having a medical school. I was listening to you earlier, where the primary focus is not going to be primary care, but what we're finding is across this nation, you do not have doctors that are going into primary care. But what we're hoping with the program that you're going to be having here, working in the community and serving those, even if they're, you know, an intern or a resident as they go through their educational program, they will see what they can do in a community on preventative care especially. Healthcare and education, as far as I'm concerned, go hand in hand. The more education that we have our young people given, the better we can work on the healthcare issues, because it does go hand in hand. It's, you know, being an educated consumer, to be very honest with you. I sit on the education committee, and in the last 2 years, we did pass the Higher Education Act. We hope to do a lot more, but we had our hands restrained because what we wanted to do would have been vetoed by the president. So
what happened in the Higher Education Act?
Well, there were a lot of good things in there. My background before I came a congressperson was nursing, and we have a nursing shortage in this country. So in the Higher Education Act, I was able to get student loan forgiveness for those that go into nursing, but more importantly, we have a lot of people that want to go into nursing. We don't have enough professors to be able to teach the course. So if you're a nurse and you go into the teaching end of it, you will have total forgiveness after 5 years. And there's a reason why we put 5 years in there. We find in a lot of fields, if you don't spend 5 years, you drop out too soon. And we want to get over that 5-year hump. But we'll do student loans forgiveness for that too.
All right, well maybe that's, if we're entering an economically difficult time, maybe that's going to be one of the solutions that also solve some of the shortages that we have in education and nursing and others more loan forgiveness, tuition forgiveness for people who go into those needed professions. For members of our audience here at Dempster Hall, if anybody has a question, here's a chance to talk to your Congresswoman if she represents your part of Long Island, and to all these experts on student loans and debt and all the stuff that we're talking about. So chime in if anybody has a question or a comment. Just raise your hand and we'll get a microphone right to you, like that person right over there. Hello. What's your name?
Oh, hi, I'm Nicole from Hofstra. What do you think financial education plays in, a lot of students, especially in high school students? A lot of us come to college and, we get these mail for credit cards and all these things, and I know a lot of people that are in credit card debt, so not only do they have their college debt, they have credit card debt. What do you think the importance of financial education is in our country?
On your comments, that sounds up your alley.
I mean, financial education is an issue I've been involved with for the past few years, ever since I wrote Generation Debt, and I think it's really crucial. The fact is, we live in a reality right now where individuals have so much responsibility, whether it's for managing credit offers, planning for your own retirement, saving, dealing with unexpected healthcare expenses. Young people are the largest and fastest growing group without healthcare. And we have all of these pressures, all of these responsibilities, and yet it's not part of the standard public school curriculum. It's not there in the high schools. It's not there oftentimes in the college and even the graduate schools. And so what we see is a very huge gap. And, there's a huge need right now. I see a lot of entrepreneurs who are trying to fill that need with online financial services and online programs to help young people learn the basics of budgeting and checkbook balancing that they never had any exposure to before.
Here's a post from somebody in the hall named Brian who writes, "The student in debt sings, 'Why would I feed the beast that eats its young?'" I guess referring to the song. How could the incoming administration directly address the rising costs of higher education on a nationwide basis? And what systemic features of the education system need to be changed? Provost Berliner, what about the second part of that question? Do any systemic features of the education system need to be changed to make it more universally affordable?
I think what we have is a whole variety of higher education options, starting from the community colleges going to the elite colleges, and it gives the students a whole opportunity to decide on the education that's best for them and that they can best afford. The idea of controlling costs is, I think, very bad in terms of the way an economist looks at that, because our costs are, to a great extent, added services we provide to our students. So if giving faculty salary increases, do we stop doing that? Do we stop adding services that our students demand? I think that becomes an artificial constraint that doesn't make sense. The student has to decide what makes the most sense, and there is that all those opportunities available in higher education.
But the first part of the question, and Congresswoman, I'll address this to you, was how could the incoming administration directly address the rising costs of higher education on a nationwide basis? Michael Dannenberg was saying before that the Obama plan tries to address the affordability of those costs, but not the costs themselves. Is there anything that government can do?
We had a lot of hearings on that, and I'll be very honest with you. I probably am going to be siding with the universities. The universities have to change their curriculum constantly to keep up with what's going on in where local jobs would be or jobs across the country. When we talk about green jobs coming into the future, that is opening up a whole new world. That means more engineers and to come up and think outside the box. That means the university has to turn around and change a whole program. It's not that easy. So with that, and and I will say, if you can't pay your professors a decent salary, especially living here on Long Island, are you going to get the best professors? So, I mean, there is something that it sounds like an easy answer, but it's not.
So, Michael Dannenberg, is there anything on the policy level to address the cost of higher education? You heard the university official defend it and the political official defend it.
Well, this is an uncomfortable position to be in, but the number one driver of costs when it comes to public colleges and universities is state funding. So to my mind, state funding has to be stabilized and not cut, which we're about to see happen with this recession. When it comes to private universities like Hofstra, you heard the provost mention the facilities here and the great programs and so forth. What we really have is an arms race when it comes to institutions of higher education that are selective. Hofstra wants a great residence life facility because a competitor institution has a great residence life facility. So there's this constant competing to be bigger and better than your nearest competitor. There are new areas of knowledge, be it green, that which will lead to green jobs.
That's why they're spending $3 million to have the debate here. It's going to presumably come back to them in more over time. Do you want a response to that, Mr. Berliner, or no?
I'd love to respond. First, in terms of the $3 million for debate, we've been able to cover those costs through fundraising, so none of it adversely impacts the students. None of it is reflected in the students'
I presume it will
tuition.
benefit the university more than it will cost in the long run. That's why you do it, right?
We did all of this for the students, to give the students the opportunity to be at the debate, to get the students greater sophistication in terms of the political process. It's tremendous for our students. In terms of an arms race or a sense that you're trying to match other schools, a lot of what we're dealing with are consumer expectations. It's not just an arms race. It's what our incoming students expect. It's what our transfer students expect. It's what their parents expect. They expect to see this fully textured experience. They expect to see that the environment is one that supports what students are interested in doing 24 hours a day.
Anya, should we lower student expectations?
I think that college costs aren't going to come down until students and families get realistic about what it is they want and need out of the higher education experience. You know, you're not here to go to the gym. You're not here to enjoy gourmet food. You're here to get an education. You're here to get some life experience. And
wait a minute.
Yeah.
Who here would lower your expectations in order to have cheaper tuition? Let me see hands.
Ooh.
How many would not? That was probably about half, but very few hands went up to say no. Congresswoman?
I think that we're all kind of missing a point, though. I belong to what they call the NATO parliamentarians, meaning I go all over the world. We meet with our NATO partners. And one of the things, because I do sit on the education committee, when I'm in a different country, I go spend time in high schools and in universities in that particular country. We are facing, and you've heard this 100 times, a global economy and the competition that the United States is facing from other nations and undeveloped nations that are moving up rapidly. We have to make sure our students are prepared for that. And that is a national security, the way I look at it, because each and every one of you are going to be the future leaders of this country. And if that means the federal government, in my opinion, has to get more involved to making sure that those students that want to go to college have that opportunity. And I think there's a segment out there that's also missing. There are a lot of students that don't want to go to college. I was able to get language into the Higher Education Act that would open up tech schools and career colleges. And that will fill, in my opinion, also another area where those that are losing jobs now, you know, a machinist is a machinist, a carpenter is a carpenter, but they can be retrained for the new jobs that are going to come out in the future.
And that has to be the last word. 30 issues in 30 days. Issue 18, Affording College Educations. Tomorrow, issue 19, Affordable Housing. This morning's program was produced by Jody Avergon with production help from Paige Cowett, Lisa Allison, Nadia Zonis, Charles Troy, Taylor Orsi, and Rashida Winthrop. Shira Rosenhalf, Brenda Williams-Butts, Wayne Schulmeister, Jennifer Houlihan, and Robin Billedkoff helped organize the event. Debbie Daughtry and Ed Haber were at the audio controls with help from Paul Ruest and Noriko Okabe. We'd also like to thank Cynthia Bogard, Tim Femmel, Mario Murillo, and WRHU at Hofstra University. The executive producer of The Brian Lehrer Show is Nuala McGovern. WNYC's program director is Chris Bannon. Don't forget again tonight, we have our pre-debate special beginning at 8 o'clock and live debate coverage at 9. You can join us online in our group blog at debatecompanion.org. Thank you, Hofstra University. You have been great. Give yourselves a round of applause. Brian Lehrer on WNYC. And that's it for this week's show. Remember, we're available as a podcast. You can sign up at CUNY.TV. Also, please tune in to my WNYC radio program weekday mornings at 10 on 93.9 FM and AM 820. Tomorrow morning at 10, we will look at the term limits debate in the New York City Council. And join me back here next week, Wednesday night at 7:30 for Brian Lehrer Live. Have a great night.